me great pleasure to welcome the listeners of the DJ Force X podcast to Nick here. He's in the band Cage Fight. Welcome, Nick.
Welcome to myself.
How the tables have turned. Yes. Well, that was a good intro. I like that. We're going to keep that. I'm not going to edit this. So, no, welcome to the podcast. Thank you very much for joining me. You guys have been on my sort of list for a while. I've seen you a couple of times live. Caught you at Takedown last year. I think that was the most recent one. And little bit of history with one of your members of the band, just through previous exploits in my music style of things. But yeah, we're here to talk about Cage Fight. And they've got a single out at the moment called My Dreams, which came off your self-titled album. It's an edit, but a single edit version, because the full version's 6 minutes long, isn't it?
It's a long song.
Yeah.
And it was always my favourite off the record.
I was going to say it's actually listed as one of my favorites as well. I got it written down in front of me. And then I just clicked that you released it as a single and an edit, and I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah, we just looked at it and thought, we all love this track.
Yeah.
It wasn't originally a single. What can we do here?
Yeah.
Let's edit it down and put it out with a video.
Nice. And how did you find that? Because obviously, a lot of bands in the past have always done like single edits to sort of make it more playable for the radio, because the radio likes 3 minutes, 4 minutes ish, or they used to back in the day. But how do you find like cutting a song like that down? Because it's quite a I've got it written here, quite a beefy song.
Yeah.
Give it what I've put on. But yeah, it's quite an epic song on that respect. And how did you like decide what you cut and sort of, what was the thought process?
So that particular song has quite a long introduction before it really kicks off. There's quite a long period of it doesn't cut straight in. So first of all, you've got your intro, and then there's a moment about 3/4 of the way through where it really drops out. There's lots of drum stuff going on, although I like that because it's drum stuff. The idea was to basically chop the beginning off, chop the ending off, and take a bit out. So we just trim the fat basically. So on the record, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, put out as a single, it needed to be just trimmed down, really.
Yeah.
I think we did a good job with it. I think.
No, you did, definitely did. I was just curious of how you go about doing that sort of edit, because it's a song with a lot of elements, and generally when you release stuff as a single, you want to showcase what you've got there, but also you want to sort of play to the rules of whatever the climate is at that time when it comes to the radio or whoever plays the songs. Now when you like your live sets and stuff like that, firstly, is the song in there? Is it the full version that you get to play live?
This came about originally when we started playing My Dreams live. We looked at the track and thought, well, let's keep the intro in there. So what you hear on the single is not what we currently perform live. We've left the intro in. So I think it's a really good. It kind of drops down a bit because our set's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes everyone go, oh, what's this about? It's time to kind of for people to just kind of, they're locked in, but they're not pinging off the walls, going mental as they would do throughout the rest of the set. It really drops down a bit. It's very atmospheric. The live version basically chops the end off as well, just like the single. So basically, it's exactly the same apart from we play the intro live.
Yeah, because I was looking at your album earlier, and looking at sort of, because I could see why you cut it down as well. Because looking at the length of most of your tracks, because obviously being a sort of in that sort of like hardcore punk vein, sort of when it comes to the sort of musical styles of the band, songs are typically short. You don't get those epic songs. I think I had someone on. I think it was. I'm going to name drop Max Cavalera on the show a little while ago, but he said he found it really difficult to write long songs because of the way he kind of like. You listen to Sepultura, you listen to Soulfly. Fucking name dropping here. I'm really sorry, but it makes makes sense. And then when he did. I think it was the latest Soulfly album where they did like kind of half and half on the album itself. So one half had like longer songs, which he found really difficult to write. really difficult to kind of play. And how did you guys sort of like? Because obviously, I mean, like with the album, your songs are typically between 3 and I'd say 2.5, 3 minutes to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, so when it comes to those like epic long tracks, you know, what's the sort of like, you know, the process with it? Is it something that you kind of want to go further into? Is it sort of exercising more the songwriting style of what you're all capable of?
Yeah,
Want
I'd
to do?
I'd say so. Yeah. So for the second album, which is I'd say around 70% written, um, I'm not saying the song's as long as My Dreams, but we're kind of going in that direction. So it's still hardcore influence, but there's
Yeah.
more metal at play on the second.
Okay.
I'd say the debut album. You might know a bit of the history of the band. You know, we haven't been around that long. We got together and decided to put this record together, which is just full on kind of balls to wall,
Yeah.
hardcore influence metal. But I'd say on the debut, probably 60-40 metal to hardcore.
Yeah.
And I'd say on this next record, it's more 70-30, probably a little bit higher of metal being kind of even more of a main influence than hardcore. So there's definite sprinkling of hardcore on top, but I'd
Yeah.
say it's more metal concentrated and with more songs that sound a little bit more like My Dreams.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think on the debut record, that track came in. We all loved it, and we all
Yeah.
naturally gravitate towards that sound as well. And my background, obviously, James Monteith,
Yeah.
being in that certain other band that we mentioned earlier before we started
Yes.
recording this, Tesseract, I think they're called.
Yeah. I think that's what they're called. Test or something.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. And obviously, their style of writing is totally different to what Cage Fight do. But I suppose the influence of Tesseract and James's playing in that
Yeah.
camp
Yeah.
will kind of influence what Cage Fight does when it comes to writing longer songs with a lot
Yeah.
more going on. You know, they're more in depth, they're more involved. And my background is, you know, I've got one foot in the thrash camp and one little foot in the prog camp as well. You
Yeah.
know, and eventually you kind of come up with something that isn't prog, but it's a little bit influence of the longer songs and
Yeah.
more widdly bits, as you'd
Yeah.
say.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what is your background? Like your sort of origin of like, obviously before Cage Fight.
So my first proper band was a band called Aghast,
Okay.
which we were around for about 10 or so years. It was friends from school and
I have songs of yours on my computer. Right.
right, okay, excellent. So it was 2016-ish. We kind of disbanded, you know,
Yeah.
people lives.
Yeah.
You know, people had children and moved away, and you know how things pan out. I joined a couple of other bands in the process, Corpsing as well. So
Yeah.
in and out of Corpsing for quite a number of years, from I think about 2008 onwards. I left the band, rejoined them, and then got a call through to join Cage Fight. To have a chat with Monty
Yeah.
and then Rachel as well.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, it's gone from there really. So yeah, I've been in and out of bands for years, and I play in another band at the moment called Raise the Devil, which is more kind of heavy rock. I'd say kind of down mixed with a bit of Corrosion Conformity, Crowbar, more old school, that kind of side of things. You know what I mean? Like the more kind of bluesy side of things rather than the thrashy side of things.
Oh,
Uh,
sounds awesome.
yeah. So, yeah, so with that, and that's a bunch of mates in the local area. I'm in Hertfordshire. We all live local. We just meet up and just jam out tracks and play kind of local shows and shows further afield.
Nice, nice. I mean, like I said, with the Gus, I want to go back to that because
Go for it.
I'm just looking through my thing here. I'm trying to find it. Not gonna find it. So I got like all my records here or MP3s. But I remember you guys did a sort of a dubstep, like
Yes.
EP crossover. Was it? It was an EP, wasn't it?
It was. It was an EP that we recorded all of our tracks in our normal style, and then we sent them off to a lot of people to mix it in the States
Yeah,
because doing stuff with Abducted Records at the time, and they mostly put out pretty kind of extreme drum and bass, dubstep, that kind of thing. So it was this idea to take our tracks, remix them, and then we kind of had this EP that had 3 tracks of our own and then 3 tracks of another take on them, so to speak, you
yeah,
know, another
yeah.
remix version. That was fun.
No, I mean, it really plays into my wheelhouse when it comes to when I DJ. So I love electronic crossover, like especially when it crosses over with metal. So there's a lot of bands that kind of do it more sort of you got like Pendulum, Pitch Shifter, I'm trying to the Prodigy, stuff like that that kind of fuse in that rock element with the electronic element. And I had a show on Total Rock for many years where I literally played a set of remixed rock music, remixed and sort of like stuff either I just mash up kind of thing, or bands would send me. You guys sent me the EP and it got played a few times on my show. But yeah, no, that sort of sound is my that's my sort of my sound, if you will,
Okay,
when
so
it comes to actually
you're into
playing.
that. That is your thing.
That
You
is my
like.
thing. New metal as well. I love that because like I play rock clubs still in the UK here, and I'm playing tonight, in fact, in Guildford. Um, but yeah, I play sort of the typical sort of dance filler sort of stuff, and and I try and mix it up as well. I do like a drum and bass set, so I've got some like bootleg remixes of some popular bands that sort of have been remixed into drum and bass and stuff like that, and just sort of mix that up, and people seem to like it, which is nice. Um,
Oh,
it's not a mainstream thing though, unfortunately. It was close. It was close. It almost got there. Corn almost pushed it over, but it didn't quite. They kind of retreated from it, and then everyone retreated from dubstep for a little bit. So
yeah, it has dubstep's. I'm not an expert with dubstep. I mean, you will know way more than me, but it was a thing, a bigger thing about 10 or so years ago, wasn't it? Or
yeah,
ish.
definitely. Yeah. It was the thing, and then it helped like with the crossover stuff with a lot of Skrillex things,
Yeah.
working with like other artists, obviously Korn being one of them. And then it kind of opened up a lot of bands using those elements within their songs because it's down, the tuning is down there.
Exactly. Well, it's kind of like, it's just going to happen, isn't it? You've got many different styles of angry music, or music that's very energetic and in your face, and eventually they're going to cross over. You
Oh
know,
no, exactly,
it'd be really
exactly.
weird if everyone stayed completely in
It would
their
be
camps.
weird, but I love it when people meld stuff together. Like if it's clever, even like the typical mashups that you can hear sometimes. If they're really good, it's just an amazing thing. But that's just my perspective from being a DJ, because that's the sort of like thing that I would try and create myself or just utilize in my sets whenever I'm out and about. I mean, you can sort of see these blurred out turntables behind me. Those do get used. They're not there for just show.
it's not it's not a background that you've got through Zoom.
No, no, it is genuine. I can there you go. See, I can do that. But it's those things have toured with me around everywhere. So, and they're still working. And this is like 20 plus years later. So it's like the solidarity of them. They've got to be part of my show. So but yeah, and I'll go back to the music now. With like Aghast and stuff, it was really cool. And yeah, thank you for obviously which one of your member of the band sent it to me. Can't remember who it was. I'd have
Yeah,
to look at my emails to actually find
well, it
out.
might have been through bit of like, we had a PR contact at the time.
Oh,
It
okay.
might have come through him.
Possibly, possibly. But it's
Mm.
nice to put, finally a face to the band up front because I know you guys
Yeah.
disbanded. So I was like, oh,
They're finished. Yeah,
yeah,
to face the band, but the face that sits at the back.
yeah. Still,
Yeah,
it's still one of the faces. It might be out of focus, but it's still one of the faces.
blurry like your decks in the background.
Exactly, exactly. They
Yeah.
want to be the blurred out Roland Rat behind me just there.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to sort of Cage Fire. It's like the first album that you guys released was a couple of years ago. It's 2022, self-titled. Couple of tracks on that album, really bangers. Like I mean, I love my hardcore. I love all music. I'm just gonna like say I love everything. There are some things I don't like, but we don't need to talk about those. So, but hardcore is part of my past as well. I used to be very much into kind of bands like Vision of Disorder, Earth Crisis, oh god, Throwdown, bands like that from back 20 plus years ago that were releasing albums. Obviously some of them are still going, some of them aren't, but you guys really fall. Chromags as well is another one. And you guys kind of fall, like the sound falls into that kind of, it's kind of like it's got a groove to it. It's not
That's
just
it.
like you sort of like tick, like what they used to call it, tick a tick hardcore, I think it was called.
We did a tour with Chromags. Yeah, we
Yeah.
went
Oh, have you?
Yeah, we went out on the
Oh,
road with Promags a while back, so it wasn't that long after the album came out.
yeah.
That was good. Yeah, and then shortly, yeah, around that time we went on tour with Sepultura as well, when they and Raging Speedhorn.
Oh,
So
excellent. Yeah.
that was fun few dates.
Was gonna say it must have been a fun few on that one. But yeah, I mean, on the album itself, like I say, it's got that groove element to it, which I really like. There's a couple of tracks, My Dreams, which was one of them, which you've released now. To give it another shout out because it's out now. Um, what was it? Eating Me Alive. We had Trevor from,
Yeah,
unfortunately, no longer with us from Black Dahlia Murder. But that was a hell of a track. Make a Decision as well. Um, I really like Bitch in the Pit, the one that closes it out.
yeah. I mean, yeah,
That's just-
the body count cover.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was yeah, it's a lot of fun. That was a lot of
yeah,
fun. I mean, we played it live a lot. We haven't so much recently. But I think we're definitely going to bring it back.
nice.
Um, yeah, it's good fun to play live as well. That because I obviously accidentally play it too fast
Of
live.
course.
I get overexcited on that track,
Yeah.
and I get looked at by the rest of the band members like, "What are you doing?"
It's everyone else making a mistake, not
Yeah,
you. That's what you
oh,
got to remember.
not me at all.
Not the Red Bulls, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
but you mentioned a new album is about 70% written. Do you have any sort of like obviously plans for that? Is that a 2025 thing or is that something a bit further out?
So we are planning on recording it this year.
Okay,
So out as soon as we need to look at the schedules, all the rest of it. But yeah, I think it'll be either back end of this year or next year. Yeah,
cool, cool.
more news on that coming soon.
Excellent. You look
Yeah.
forward to it. Everyone look out for it on that one. And as well, like you've got a couple of dates coming up as well. You're playing a couple of festivals this year. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
So we've got playing in Poland at Mystic Festival,
yeah,
and we've got Full Force Festival as well in Germany.
it's a good one.
We've also got a date when we were in Germany, playing in Belgium as well
Okay.
before Full Force. So yeah, we just got back from Oslo as well. So we did
Oh,
the Inferno Fest warm up.
okay, cool.
That was a lot of fun. That was good.
Nice, nice. And you got any sort of planned dates for here in the UK?
Yeah, so with no planned dates at the moment, we're looking at possibility of doing a few dates this year, but we're just in the process of planning it. So let's see what happens with that. But it's definitely something we're looking at, and we want to do it as well.
Yeah,
We really want to do that. It's just making sure everything, all the timelines match up, and it
yeah.
works.
You've got a lot to play with, haven't you, with other people with other commitments and stuff like that. So it's got to fall into when they're not doing anything.
Yeah, it's also got to work with what with the release when we want to release it, and just
Yeah.
get the timing right. Yeah. So we're definitely looking at it, and I'm excited to do that. So
Cool.
it will happen. It's just more of a when.
Yeah, no, if you do, I'll be keeping an eye on. I'll try and if it's near enough to me, I'll come along to the show. Um, so I can't travel everywhere, unfortunately, as much as I want to. Uh, um, I've got a couple of questions left for you, if that's all right. I can let
Yeah,
you get
go for it.
your evening. So more about yourself. So what I'd like to know are three either pivotal songs or albums for you. So not necessarily your favorites, but something like when you first heard a track by someone or an album by someone that kind of changed your musical perspective, like you wanted to get into like metal basically, or any sort of like what made you want to drum?
Exactly. That's a really good question. So I would say when I was about 13 or so, it was hearing Bulb Display of Power by Pantera, which I know I'm sure a lot of people say Pantera is an influence and the rest of it, but at the end of the day, it was.
Yeah.
And it was a thing. And I'll never forget that someone gave it to me on tape and they recorded it themselves. All the tracks were the wrong way around and everything. And
Ah,
I thought that's how it sounded, and I bought the album, and I was like, "Hang on a minute, what's going on here? That's not how it starts." But yeah, it's Pantera. I got really into them. Testament, Slayer. I was a massive, borderline obsessed Slayer fan when I was a teenager, and I'd say there's a lot of Slayer influences in Cage Fight.
hmm,
Not necessarily from all the thrash and everything, but more kind of the riffage and
yeah,
the attack. But there must be billions of fans that use Slayer as an influence, but at the end of the day, it's true.
Yeah.
That's we all love it. Me and Monteith are massive Slayer fans, and there are many stories of us being locked in a room with Slayer and alcohol, and it all going terribly wrong, and making a massive mess. So yeah, I would say for me, Meshuggah as well. So Destroy, Rose, Improve.
Yep.
I remember the first time I heard that, and that was an absolute game changer, musically in general, but also for me as a drummer, just hearing Thomas Hart doing stuff like that, and I was just
Yeah.
thinking,
I was going to say that.
amazing. It's just so different to anything else at the time,
Yeah.
and it still is in a way. You know, you listen to Meshuggah's releases, and I'm wearing Meshuggah shirt. I might be a fan, you might have guessed. And their releases, like Immutable, their recent release is excellent, and they're all great. But there's something about Destroy, Raise, Improve and how completely off the wall it was, an absolute game changer, which will always stick in my mind as a go to influence for drumming.
Nice.
For sure.
And any other tracks or anything else from anyone else back in the day that kind of really, obviously we've mentioned Pantera,
Yeah.
Slayer, Meshuggah, were there any other Testament as well? Were there any others, like particular tracks that really kind of defined any like moment in your life or anything like that?
Yeah, there's loads, but I'm just delving into the depths of my mind, staring at my vinyl collection, trying to get something to jump out at me. But I'd say Morbid Angel.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I loved Morbid Angel. Death as well. So we're looking at the Individual Thought Patterns album.
Yep.
Yeah, love that. I love all the records, but that one stood out to me a lot. And Human as well by Death.
Yeah.
Every album they did, they had pretty much different drummer each time. So Gene Hoggan's a big influence of mine. Sean Reinhart, yeah, Richard Christie, all those kind of drummers.
Nice.
Love it, you know. But honestly, I could go on and talk several hours about this. So I'm trying to kind of concentrate on something.
Has there been anything recently that you've heard that you've gone like, wow, like
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that comes out that grabs me. I'll tell you what I'm listening to at the moment, which I just like the record. I think it just sounds cool. Is the new Borg Nagar album?
oh yeah, yeah,
I do like my kind of my black metal and stuff, especially if it's like the more kind of weirder black metal, not the
yeah,
kind of normal black metal. Um, and yeah, Fall I think it's called. That record is that's played a lot at the moment for me. I think that's really cool, and I like ICS Vortex's vocal and everything. It just gives everything a different spin.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot that I listen to at the moment. In fact, what I'm going to do, right? Because you've asked me this question, you're going to regret this.
Okay, go on.
I'm going to delve into my app and look for another album. Listen to the new Benighted album.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, listen to that quite a bit. Bit about the Gates.
Yep.
Obviously, the album
Yep.
that everyone talks about.
Yep.
You know, Snort of the Soul.
Yep. That is a hell of an album.
That for me as well. The first time I heard that, because it's that different take on thrash, that Gothenburg
Yes.
sound, you know, the Gothenburg shuffle I call it, where it's you know you kind of you know that kind of thing. Gothenburg shuffle. If that hasn't been stolen by someone else, I need to work.
I'm going to take that, and I'm going to, if I ever interview any of those, I'm going to use that word, Gothenburg shuffle.
The Gothenburg shuffle, yeah. Yeah, there's so much stuff. Basically, for me, anything with Dave Lombardo on it.
Okay, yep, yep.
And even bands like Faith No More, whatever. I just love anything that I listen to and it grabs me. It could be anything.
Cool.
But it does tend to be guitar based. It does tend to be slightly angry.
Okay, well that's yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah. As soon as we finish this call, right? As soon as we finish this, I'll say bye. And I'll go. Oh, I forgot to mention. No. You get the gist.
That's all right. We get the gist with all those. I mean, there's plenty to go on there. And I love to hear what people are listening to, or what they used to, what defined, or what's kind of like helped them along the way and everything like that. Because then I can go back and listen to stuff, and like if it's stuff I've never heard before.
Yeah.
Most of yours I've heard, which is great. I mean, Pantera, that was huge during my childhood. They were like the biggest metal band in the world.
Well, yeah, Crowbar.
Yeah, Crowbar. Yeah.
Crowbar. An album that I bought when I was, I think it was 16, and I was in Reykjavik in Iceland, and I walked into a record store, and all the metal was at the front, and all the pop was at the back, which I did appreciate. Was Oddfellows Rest by Crowbar.
Mm.
Still one of the heaviest albums I think ever written, but also quite very melodious as well. And I see Crowbar as a really slowed down hardcore band, basically.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. They just like they hit the slow-mo button on hardcore.
Yeah, Kirk Winstone was just like, no, we're just going to slow this down. We're
Yeah.
just going to slow it down.
Too old for
Um,
this.
but yeah, you could go from Crowbar, and then I'll bring up Symphony X, The
Yeah.
Odyssey.
Yeah.
Another game changer for me when I was younger. So all these kind of bands are totally, some of them are totally different to each other, aren't they? But that's the kind of the smorgasbord of influence.
That's the thing. That's the kind of thing I like to sort of get out of people like yourself, just to sort of know where you guys were, where you were at, and where you come from, and all that kind of stuff. Just so because then it kind of like it shapes. You know, I can see the influences, I can hear the influences. I see you're wearing a Sugar t-shirt. You know, I've got my Seething Akira one on. If I can
Nice.
give them a shout out. Where is it? Oh, there we go. I'm not very good.
Yeah, well deserved shout out as well.
Yeah, no, they're doing exceptionally well. And I've had those guys multiple times on this show, and I've seen them multiple times as well, and they just keep going up, and hopefully they'll keep going as well. Because I want this like, because you're part of it as well. This like UK scene. There's this like explosion about to happen. I feel
Yeah.
like there's a few bands that have kind of like broken through the sort of the old guard, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Which you know I don't like to sort of say they should peter out, but there's always been a barrier between where bands go to and where they can't get to because there's so many, or there's already someone there. But
Yeah.
there's supposed to be bands breaking through now, like Bring Me the Horizon, um, and Wargasm are making a go of it as well. They're sort of doing it a different way. Um, and you know, just like UK bands that are breaking through, but taking other UK bands with them.
Yeah.
That's the key with it. Like, there's a lot of like when I look at some of the bills and stuff that are touring, um, or just playing shows, there's a lot of these bands taking other UK bands with them rather than jumping on, you know, obviously there are touring opportunities with like overseas bands, but seems to be this movement that hasn't been there for a while.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
from my perspective anyway, like when you say building a scene or something like that, there seems to be this sort of like crop of bands that are like really, really good at what they do.
Yeah.
Um,
And the thing is, you get bands that are really good at what they do, and it's when they deserve to, because of all that hard work they put into it and how great they are. It's seeing that progression is very it's good to see.
yeah, no, and like
Well
headline
deserved, you know?
festivals, Skindred, another one.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you kind of I think of them as like not as a new band, but they are for a lot of people now because they've finally broken through that ceiling that they've been stuck under for so long.
Yeah.
Like, they had an opportunity when they started, that kind of didn't go to plan, but they've gone back, they've not given up, and they've just come back and they've just suddenly, you know, headlining Wembley, and you're like, finally.
Exactly. I remember playing a gig with Skindred with my first ever band, which was a band called Black Eye, which
Mm.
was pre-Aghast. This is going back to like 2003
Yeah.
ish. And I remember I played a local show in Hertfordshire, in Letchworth Garden City,
Yep.
at a hall which is now shut, and we were playing with Skindred. And
Yeah.
at the time, it was like, oh, who's this? And now it's, you know, quite a big band. But
Yeah,
that,
that's
yeah,
the thing. I mean, I've got loads of stories of us playing with Skindred, like my old band playing with Skindred and stuff like that. And it's crazy because it's like we played these tiny venues. We played
yeah,
like what was it? This random it was a random, it's burnt down now. It was Edwards number 8 in Birmingham.
right,
It's like a pub venue, but we played a random, I think like Thursday night with them there in front of 10 people. And then, you know, we played with them at the Underworld in Camden in front of 25 people. And it's just like watching them, like, obviously us at the same time we're doing stuff, but then now looking, I mean, it's like, you know, they've done it. You know, if I'd stuck with it, maybe could have done that as well. But you know, it's not my, you know, that's not my dream or anything. But it's like it's a could have. But they finally watching them and just like they've made remain the four piece as well, like the same four members as well. With a lot of bands would have most likely dropped members by this point, but they've just kept going, which is mad.
Massively dedicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. But I got one more question for you, then I'll let you go. What are your hobbies away from music?
Well, I was going to say drum teaching, but that's obviously not away from music, but that's also not a hobby. But yeah, when I'm not with the bands, either one of the bands, obviously Cage Fight, there's a lot going on with Cage Fight, there's a lot coming out of Cage Fight. Hobbies wise, everything's to do with music and drums, I'm
Okay,
afraid. I don't
sorry.
have, yeah, honestly, it really is. I used to have a lot of hobbies when I was younger, and now I've just streamlined into full on music and drums. If I'm not playing drums in a band,
Yeah.
I'm teaching them.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, yeah,
Do you collect vinyl as well? Because you're saying you've got a record collection.
I do. I basically I haven't been collecting vinyl for that long, a few years,
Okay.
but I've got an absolute mountain of CDs in my shed.
Ah,
Like huge amounts of CDs. I don't buy CDs anymore. If I like something, I'll buy it on vinyl.
yeah,
So I grab something now and then. If I'm let loose in a record store, in a local record shop or something, I will leave with many vinyls. So I'm almost scared to go in.
yeah. No, I'm about to embark on record store day tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no.
So I do it every year. Ever since it started, I've sort of supported it wherever I am. But yeah, I'm gonna go there. I've got a couple of things on my list. If I get them, I get them. If I don't, I don't. I might pick up something else. But yeah, I pick up like you. If I like something and I want it, even though I've got it on CD, excuse me, I'll grab it on vinyl.
Nothing
Especially,
better than having a vinyl in your hand. Well, for all the obvious reasons,
yeah,
you've got the artwork that's massive in comparison to your CD, but it's that whole kind of physical music
yeah,
collecting thing, which I remember. An album would come out, you go to the shop, you buy it on CD, and I can still like remember the moment you open it up and you've got the inlay there, and sometimes a certain smell to the ink and the paper and all that, and all
yeah,
those memories come flooding back when I put an album on, and
yeah.
that's one thing that you don't get from the digital side of things, the more disposable side of things. But
That's very true. I had the same I've had a conversation a couple of times with various other artists that I used to listen to when I was at college and stuff like that. And I remember I know where I bought the CD. I pretty much know how much I spent on the CD. And I know how I feel about and it takes me back like a lot of them like classic, like let's say classic albums. Oh, well, it is classic now because it's like 25 years. Bloody hell. Um, but taking it back to like takes me back to that era and like walking to college or going to school or doing whatever I was just because I used to just listen to music all the time.
yeah,
Um,
and it's finding I used to almost panic about finding a coat pocket big enough to put the CD Walkman in,
oh yeah, yeah.
and then which album am I going to take with it apart from the CD that's already in the Walkman, just in case I get bored of that album and I want to swap it over.
Yes. Yeah, that was the trick. I had a little CD case. I've got it around here somewhere. Little like pad CD case, which turned into big ones when I started DJing out. And now I just take like when I go DJing, I take things like this.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it's amazingly convenient.
Oh,
Um, I'll never forget those. Walk into college, like you said, going, oh, what album am I going to put on? If I leave and I've already picked this album, I can't go back. I need to get another album just in
yeah,
case.
yeah,
Silly things like that. But I remember it. I'm talking about it now. It was a thing. So
yeah,
I've got attachments to those records because I remember choosing them, and you are dedicated to that album. And when you buy it and it comes in the post, or you get it from a shop or whatever, you then are invested in it. You've paid money on it, and now you either got to like it or you decide that it wasn't a good investment.
yeah.
But
That's
and
the thing.
yeah,
It's, I mean, there's a lot. I listen to everything I buy. That's one. I make a point of listening to everything that I buy, just purely because I've bought it for a reason, and I need to justify that reason. If I don't like it, okay, fine. If it's something new, but if it's something that I'm like, I know of, like I bought, was it Jar of Flies, the reissue, Alice in Chains, recently,
great.
and
I love
I
that.
I was sold that basically by them playing it in the record shop.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, Mike, I saw it was coming out. I was like, oh, it's just another reissue. But they played it in the shop, and I was like, oh, fuck, I really like this album.
it is an amazing, amazing record.
Yeah.
I saw recently a guy that I don't know his name. It was on Instagram, and basically he's made one with flies in it.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he did a Mortal Kombat one with blood in it.
that's it.
Yeah, yeah. So that popped up on my like for you page on whatever
I
social.
want it. I
Um,
want in my vinyl collection. I want some dead flies. I've been trying
yeah,
to get. Yeah.
yeah. There was another one with maggots in it. I can't remember who that was for though. I, I don't know, like dead maggots inside it. I don't know if it was Slipknot or not, but it because that makes more sense. But no, I looked on that guy's website. He does a lot of like funky vinyl, like especially like illuminate, like luminous and glow in the dark type stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know how good they are over time. Kind of like a bit of a vinyl thing on that, because like some like records, like I say gimmicky records, but stuff like that may not last or may not sound as good as a
No,
that
no,
but that's a whole different conversation.
it is. You don't want the vinyl coming apart and flies going everywhere because
Well,
that.
there is that too, because it's yeah, and they're all like flying around on the edge. You speed up the record, and I like to scratch, so they're just flying back and forth. Like,
Yeah.
oh god,
Yeah.
that's awful. Thinking about it, that is awful. But yeah, Nick, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Love chatting to you. Good luck with everything Cage Fight. Have fun at the festivals and all that kind of stuff. And I hope to catch you guys live again, either if you end up doing something this year or next year or anything like that, you know. But if you're down the sort of southern area of England, like below London, I will try and make it.
Let's see what happens. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for inviting me on here.
Oh, no problem at all, man. You have a good rest of your day, all right? Or evening.
And you,
Thank you.
take care, mate. Bye.